Dead games don't have to stay dead, and I'm hoping that sometime in the near future we kind of build systems in place so that we can preserve games, because this is starting to kind of become a problem. I know that a few years ago we all lamented the loss of Flash titles, and some of them got preserved, but most of them didn't. And a lot of us are wanting to go back and play some retro titles, especially Nintendo games, and finding it incredibly difficult to get our hands on that. But this video today specifically is talking about online games. And for the past 10 years especially, we've seen some viral hits and some amazing cultural milestones actually take place that then have disappeared utterly. We have an epitaph, which are just our memories, and the echoes that exist on YouTube, and maybe sometimes you see it on TikTok. But dead games don't have to stay dead. Regardless, this is my tombstone of a video to say that, hey, you know what? There's a bunch of games that I really liked. I wish I can go back and play them the way that they used to be. And maybe they are technically still playable, but they're effectively dead. And by dead, I mean they're online games that don't got much going on for the online, or maybe they literally aren't anymore. We've seen with titles like Gigantic that it is possible to come back, and now Gigantic is on Game Pass, which is fun to just jump in, you know, if you're a little bored of Marvel Rivals, you got tired of Overwatch, Gigantic is a fantastic experimental game to jam to. Of course, it's got its problems, all these games have their problems, but they also have a lot of really great stuff to them. And I think it's really cool to see fan-made creations to bring back what we had of Paragon in new titles. I want to see more of that. But regardless, let's have some fun. You know, let's spiral in the sorrow of dead games that I personally wish I could play again. So a little history lesson that I can't even give a proper exposition on is that in 2003, GunZ The Duel released, and this was an era of weird and wacky PvP games, and I don't know how to describe it if you didn't live through it, but basically everyone was trying all sorts of weird game modes, from tribes like, you know, Capture the Flag, to the weirdest like deathmatch stuff. Obviously you have Counter-Strike and Halo and then Gears of War, and all these games kind of branched out from that, and we kind of distilled down payload like game modes that we saw from Team Fortress, etc. But back in the day, we had some weird stuff going on, and GunZ The Duel was such the epitome of that, to a point that I don't think this gameplay exists anywhere else. And yet, back in the day, there was a lot of weird, what I want to say is mixing of fighting and shooting mechanics, but also like RPG kind of stuff going on, and sometimes there'd be weird and wacky PvE modes, which this game totally had too, and it just had this ecosystem of like, you join a server, jump around and do some dungeons with your friends, or jump around and do some PvP with your friends, or 1v1, and it was just a lot of fun, especially in an era of new free-to-play games where anybody could just jump in and have a great time with guns. A better time if you pay money, but you could have a great time. Me, on my E-machine back in the 2000s, this was the first action game that I ever played on PC, so first time using mouse and keyboard, and it was hell, and it still is hell. Debatably, it is still the highest skill ceiling game in the world, in my opinion, in terms of this style of gameplay, maybe unless you play Spider-Man and Marvel Rivals. But if you like playing Spider-Man and Marvel Rivals, the whole experience of GunZ is like that, but with this epic, like, Korean arcade feel. Like, I don't know, honestly, it feels like it could totally fit in an arcade today with its systems. Very spectacle fighter, and I wish I could go more into the nuances of this game, but that's what makes it really special, is these subtle little nuances that have been sort of missed over the years. You know, now we have like big epic heroes, that's awesome, and, you know, very distinct game modes that are very refined in esport, like Payload, etc. But there was something really cool about just being able to jump in and experiment in a almost sandbox of skill, of just pick and mix and match different weapons with different, you know, physical styles of playing the game. The mechanical creativity here is still on display. You can still find clips of this on TikTok, so it's not dead in terms of you can never play, but in the way that it used to be, in the way of just jumping into servers, doing the weird dungeons, and then the way that this game actually felt mechanically. I think it could come back. I think there is a successor, but it's not proper. I think we could bring GunZ The Duel back, and maybe even keep it alive as like sort of, you know, how Melee has for a few years. I want to believe that, but if not, I really hope a spiritual successor releases that is just basically the same and then more and amplifies that. So yeah, there's notes here and there and some games here and there. You could play PvP in Warframe. It's not the same. If you played GunZ, you know what I'm talking about. February 10th, 2015, Evolve released, and even before then, I was in the alphas, I was in the betas, I was watching the freaking esport that they had going on. I was genuinely enthralled, but release day was the death knell actually for Evolve, and debatably maybe for the company developing it, which also co-developed with Valve Left 4 Dead, which was really the premier asymmetrical multiplayer game that most of them now are really kind of following suit. I mean, Dead by Daylight, super popular, and I would even argue that asymmetrical multiplayer games, where it's like monsters versus players, is almost normalized now with 7 Days Blood Moon coming out later this year, and obviously there's a slew of these kind of games now. But Evolve was truly special because as a monster fan, as a kid who grew up with Godzilla, dude, I just wanted to be a kaiju. And I wanted to fight other players. And in fact, it was also really fun being the different hunters too, hunting the monster in this game. But for me, I never lost as the monster. I was full on. I wanted to be a part of the esport. But that's the thing, guys, is as cool as this concept was, it was absolutely demolished by its execution. As in, like, it was like super like weird kind of pay to win and money grubby-ish, like when it first launched, and then it kind of relaunched and it just... Anyways, it died very quickly, despite the fact that almost everyone can look back a little bit fondly at this game, like, you know, that's an idea I kind of want to see revisited, yeah. Anyways, all of these games that I want to talk about today deserve so much more journalistic respect to really explore them, and I think that Evolve actually has that. So does GunZ. Actually, a lot of these do, but Evolve especially was one that was such a AAA experience, seemingly, with the graphics, with the feel, the viscerality of literally everything. It was so cool, and even the fact that they were pushing a little bit of an esport was so... it was like this epicosity was unfolding in front of our eyes, and it was insane to watch it all be burned alive, like instantaneously launch day. No, for real, like people really did not like all the microtransactions, the balance of the game was really strange, and there was no like campaign, or there was nothing to really do. And this was still at a time when we were very uncomfortable purchasing like fully multiplayer games. It would be a little bit till Overwatch came out, right? So it was all just very strange. People weren't ready for this game, and yet we can look back and be like, you know, maybe they should re-release it. But yeah, you know what? I can just pretty much summarize it all by saying it was an immersive experience, hunting and being hunted, / then turning into a giant monster throughout the match, and then devouring the people or destroying the generator. It was kind of interesting. I think it could have been done so much better. Also, there was no reason why there couldn't have been like at least a little tiny story mode. Like it could have just been the same multiplayer mode, but it could have been a story mode, and it could have got people into the experience better instead of just getting their face smashed by like esport monsters like me. So it was a game that was not quite aware of its audience, and I think its audience only became really aware of the gem that this game is or was kind of later in time. So if we can get something like this back again, I think it would probably do a lot better, as long as it's not like money grubby pay to win and, you know, just releases half done. Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. Hey, thanks for making it halfway through the video. Here's the bumper. So today, let's talk about dead games coming back to life. As we speak, Defiance, which is this like shooter sci-fi dystopian MMORPG thing, is actually coming back. For those that don't know, Defiance was a game that released, and it was supposed to have like a TV show, and I think it did actually air some episodes. It was going to be like a whole franchise, a whole IP, but it didn't quite find the footing that it was looking for, and I do believe this is a case of a big developer, a big publisher, or people wanting more than what the audience was hungry for, and they just sort of pulled the plug a little bit. But there actually is a niche community that would totally enjoy an experience like this. I know, personally for me, like I really miss Firefall, and I miss a lot of other games. Do they deserve to come back? Do they not? I don't know. It's debatable. We can all have good memories of things that have passed. That's fine. But it's also really cool when someone sees the potential that was unrealized of a game. So Defiance coming back. I know personally for me, I'm really excited to jump into it. I think we need way more sci-fi, shooter, weird kind of MMORPG stuff and things. And honestly, I just want to see more MMORPGs come back, because this whole video could just be on like dead MMOs I wish, you know, were more alive or not shut down anymore. Rest in peace, Wildstar, you know what I'm saying? So this is just a list more toward my particular tendencies, but hey, you know, Defiance is coming back. Didn't see that coming, but I'll definitely make sure to jump in and stream it with you guys. Links in the description for the Video Game Party Club if you guys want to jam with me, get some free video game codes, etc., stuff like that. We're gonna have a lot of fun. Game invasions, I think, would be a great tool to keep some of these games alive, and even if a game is dead, for us to keep their memory alive, at least by making new ones and having experiences and sharing them together. So if you guys are about that, let's do it. Links in the description. But okay, back to our usual programming. Now for this next game, I'm not going to sit too long on it, but clearly there is a lot of attention being put toward snow simulator slash sledding slash just kind of hangout and experience kind of games. I know you've seen some clips of like the freaking frog sledding game on TikTok, but Snow is like that. Snow was supposed to be just this pure skiing and then snowboarding and snow sports simulator that never really took off all of the way. But regardless, even in its earliest alpha days, I just threw it on first person and then I just vibed. And it actually was really intricate. It took a long time to really chew on this game, but once you kind of got into the mechanics and into the simulation of it, it genuinely was really fun. Now, I never got to play it in VR, and I never really got to play it in its fullest sense, where it was supposed to be this big MMO kind of experience where people were able to modulate and like edit the sort of like landscape, or being able to kind of make their own little snow parks and trails and like challenges. And we've kind of seen this actually with a Ubisoft title being like a very sports driven kind of experience. Like, we want these kind of games where it's like, hey, we're hanging out with friends, we just want to run around and do some tricks together, it's gonna be great. Or maybe you're just hanging out alone. This was my late night and chill game for a while, but basically it was snowboarding, and they ruined it completely by utterly like changing what they were going to do in development. They didn't do what they promised, and also they literally cut this game like apart with freaking like microtransactions and weird stuff that just completely ruined the experience. So it's over. The dream is completely over. It is often the case with games like this, and just freaking how sad, you know? Like, look, dude, I just wanted to snow around. Okay, I just want to freaking ski, and this was my game. Anyways, that's it. Simple as that. Sometimes it really is just like, this was my space, this was my third space, this was a place that I wanted to go and hang out and meet people and just have fun, and now it doesn't exist anymore. And I'm sure a lot of you guys can relate to that. Hey, you want a place to talk about Wildstar? You need a place, you just need a video to rant about it in the comments? I got you. Let's talk about Wildstar. So Wildstar basically was the sci-fi version of World of Warcraft. That's everything that it was trying to do, was like World of Warcraft 2.0, and I think in a lot of ways it actually completely succeeded. The problem is that World of Warcraft itself was already succeeding itself and was doing freaking great, and there was a bunch of other MMORPGs on the horizon and doing pretty good too. I mean, we eventually got Elder Scrolls Online and Guild Wars 2, etc. There's a lot of games that were really great, and Wildstar, just in terms of aesthetics, in terms of a world to just live in and hang out in, maybe wasn't it. I honestly think Wildstar would have immediately succeeded if it was revived as a more ARPG-like experience, which we actually see in a few titles now. There's just now releasing, or in the past year, or about to release, a bunch of games that look disturbingly similar to Wildstar in terms of mechanics and art style, and then like overall just the vibe is there. Except it's not this big epic open world where a lot of money and time can be wasted. It's really refined and focused. And I think where Wildstar was amazing, it was peak. It's just, there was a whole MMORPG that maybe didn't need to exist and was sort of a waste of time. It was kind of, it's a lot of money. We can only play so many MMOs. And other experiences were offered from other games that people were more excited about at the time. Still, regardless, the action slash weird system that they had with all the different characters, I think the Esper class was super interesting. The way the medic worked, which is, I don't know, in a way it almost felt like fighting as a medic. Like you have these really cool charged attacks throughout all the different classes. Everything felt, in terms of mechanics, like it was very different and interesting actually, and I think we see, especially from Guild Wars 2, borrowing some concepts and ideas in terms of the user experience. So just getting a little bit nerdy, it's very game design nerd, what makes Wildstar very good, but that's why I think we see it now in modern games, and I want to see it more, but like also literally just like it could just be Wildstar. Just bring it back. Some people, like, we're gonna have some fun, and if they can actually kind of remake it a little bit to be more ARPG, dungeon, and endgame raiding focused, sold, done, that's it, it's gonna be great. But, I know some people are gonna say the housing was pretty cool. Like, honestly, I think that's all you need, is just, like, give us, like, player housing, let us run dungeons and stuff, do raids, maybe there's a couple of explorable zones or whatever, make it more Destiny-like, rather than, like, a full MMORPG, and then with player housing, this combat system, this art style that runs on any machine, guys, I think that's it. Am I crazy? But yeah, there's actually a ton of games that I genuinely miss, I mean, I could rant them out, but I don't think we have enough time for that. Over the past decade of me reviewing these games, playing these games, and even before then, just being such a fan of all these weird niche, especially free-to-play, games, it's just been such a wild ride, and it's sad when you have to leave the amusement park, but I kind of wish I could go back. It's really honestly sad. We definitely have lost some third spaces for us in a time when we don't have third spaces in real life. But I want to outro by basically saying one final game, and that's Dark Souls. Some of us don't really feel like Dark Souls is gone because a lot of us play it single player, and this is a moral that I want to get across at the very end of the video for those who stayed tuned, and thank you so much, is that sometimes a game can still be purchasable, can be playable entirely, basically, but then still miss that magic something. Dark Souls doesn't have that many players anymore, and we still echo it because it's so phenomenal, right? It was a global phenomenon and actually changed culture, basically, and game design and utterly. But Dark Souls 2 then, and then 3 came, and then now we play Elden Ring, so we feel like the spirit is alive, but the original Dark Souls was something truly special, but especially the invasion and cooperation mechanics of the original Dark Souls. I think what's really cool, though, is that somebody is actually making a full co-op mod for Dark Souls, which might re-alive the experience, but still, there was something genuinely gifted about the experience of being invaded inside of OG Dark Souls. I loved my experience when I got to play it in its prime, and even then it felt like this niche, secret little garden of fun and torture, but fun, that I don't think I'll ever get back. I can't think of any other game that does something like this other than obviously Elden Ring, but that's in Elden Ring. That's not Dark Souls. The original Dark Souls was something truly magical. Again, you can experience it yourself too, but not quite the same. All the weird and awkwardnesses of it, in all of these games that we've talked about, sometimes you can still download a game, maybe still buy a game, but it's still not quite the same. So, in that way, they can die too, in spirit. Anyways, that's all I got to say about games that are dead that I wish I could play again. I want to know your thoughts and feelings, and what ways we can pursue this in terms of like content creation together, streaming and playing together, so that we can, I don't know, relive these experiences and make them new again. That'd be pretty great. But yeah, if you want to, join the Discord in the links in the description. Much love, friends and family. Keep the hype alive, and I'll see you again next time.